What if the key to your deepest freedom isn't found in striving harder, fixing your flaws, or chasing the next success, but in simply learning to accept what is? Most people spend their lives resisting who they are, what they've experienced, or how life has unfolded. But what if that resistance is exactly what's holding them back? Today, we'll explore a radical idea that real power, peace, and personal liberation begin the moment we stop fighting ourselves and start embracing the truth, flaws, failures, and all. Are you ready to discover the freedom hidden in acceptance? Aging, often viewed as an inevitable decline, is in truth a natural and intricate part of life's journey. When we are in our 30s, there is a common misconception that time is on our side, that we can outrun it, and that we have control over the direction in which our lives unfold. The pressure to maintain youth, vitality, and success can lead to anxiety and frustration as we grow older. Yet, as the years pass, the realization sets in that aging is not an enemy to be fought, but rather a force to be embraced. Time is not something that diminishes us, but something that refines us. In our youth, we are often consumed by the illusion of permanence. We believe that what we have today will remain the same forever. We feel invincible and unchanging, and as we approach 30, there is a heightened sense of urgency. We scramble to accomplish our goals, to achieve certain milestones, and to solidify our place in the world. At this age, many of us begin to feel the pressure of time, wondering whether we are running out of it. This is where the tension lies, the desire to slow down time, to reverse its effects, to halt the inevitable progression that comes with the years. However, as we grow older, we begin to understand that the passage of time is neither a curse nor a punishment. Instead, it is an intrinsic part of our existence, a companion that accompanies us throughout our lives. We may think that youth is the ultimate state of being, a time of boundless energy and endless possibility, but as we age, we start to see that youth is not something to be clung to. It is a brief chapter in the greater story of our lives. When viewed through the lens of time's progression, youth becomes just one stage in the larger arc of personal growth. The truth is that time itself is not something to fear. It is a force that shapes and molds us, allowing us to grow into the people we are meant to be. Each passing year adds depth and richness to our experiences, offering us opportunities to reflect, to learn, and to evolve. The key is not to resist this flow of time, but to allow ourselves to be carried by it. Rather than constantly trying to hold on to the past or predict the future, we can learn to be present in the moment, to appreciate the wisdom that each new stage of life brings. In our 30s, many of us still wrestle with the desire to maintain control. We want to stay fit, stay youthful, stay relevant, but there is a powerful freedom that comes with accepting the inevitable changes that come with aging. Aging is not the same as decline. It is a transition into a new phase of life, one that can be equally fulfilling, meaningful, and rich with purpose. By embracing this flow of time, we come to understand that our worth is not determined by our age or our physical appearance, but by the depth of our character, the quality of our relationships, and the wisdom we gain from life's experiences. As we approach our 40s and beyond, we begin to realize that the external markers of success, wealth, status, beauty, are fleeting. These things may offer temporary satisfaction, but they cannot bring lasting fulfillment. The fulfillment that we seek lies not in trying to freeze time or recapture our youth, but in allowing ourselves to grow into the fullness of who we are meant to be. We can choose to view aging not as a loss, but as a process of refinement, where we shed the superficial aspects of ourselves and reveal a deeper, more authentic version of who we truly are. The passage of time also teaches us to prioritize what truly matters. When we are in our 30s, we may be caught up in the race to achieve, to accumulate, to prove ourselves. We may define success by external accomplishments, but as time goes on, we begin to understand that true success is found in our ability to live with purpose, to connect deeply with others, and to find meaning in the everyday moments of life. The pursuit of success becomes less about the destination and more about the journey. Time's flow encourages us to embrace the process, to savor the small victories, and to find joy in the simple act of living. With the passing of time comes the opportunity to look back and reflect on our journey. We gain perspective on the choices we have made, the relationships we have cultivated, and the lessons we have learned. What we once thought was important may fade into the background, and what we once took for granted may come into sharper focus. This perspective allows us to appreciate the richness of our experiences, to see how every moment, every decision has contributed to the person we have become. Time has a way of illuminating the connections between past, present, and future, showing us how everything fits together in a larger, more meaningful tapestry. As we age, we also begin to recognize that we cannot control everything. There are aspects of life that are beyond our influence: the course of events, the changing nature of relationships, the unpredictability of health. This realization can be unsettling, but it also frees us from the need to constantly control our circumstances. Instead, we learn to adapt, to flow with life rather than against it. This acceptance brings with it a sense of peace and tranquility. We begin to trust the process of life, to believe that each stage has its own purpose, and to understand that we are always growing, always evolving, even when it doesn't feel like it. The most profound lesson that time teaches us is the value of presence. In our youth, we often look ahead to what comes next, constantly striving for the future. In our 30s, we may focus on achieving specific goals, but as we grow older, we come to understand that true fulfillment lies in being fully present in each moment. We realize that the present is all we truly have. The future is uncertain and the past is gone, but the present, this fleeting, beautiful moment, is where life happens. Time's flow teaches us to embrace the now, to appreciate the people and experiences we encounter, and to be grateful for the opportunity to live fully in the moment. Aging is not a process of diminishing, it is a process of becoming. The more we embrace the flow of time, the more we allow ourselves to be shaped and transformed by it, the more we discover about ourselves and the world around us. Time is not our enemy, it is our teacher, our companion, and our guide. And by accepting its flow, we come to realize that each passing year brings with it new opportunities for growth, connection, and fulfillment. As we move through life, especially in our 30s, it is easy to become fixated on the external measures of success, our career achievements, relationships, wealth, and appearances. We chase these outward markers of success, often measuring our worth by how others see us and what we accomplish in the public eye. However, as the years pass, we come to understand that true fulfillment is not found in these external pursuits. It is the inner journey that shapes the essence of who we are. The more we engage in this inner exploration, the more we begin to uncover the deeper layers of ourselves, and in doing so, we unlock a more meaningful and fulfilling life. At 30, many people are still in the process of defining themselves. The pressures of life, the desire to succeed, to be seen, to be accepted, can create an external focus that often overshadows the internal workings of our mind and soul. It is during this time that the pursuit of outward accomplishments can cloud our ability to look inward. We are so focused on what we are doing and how we appear that we forget to ask ourselves who we truly are. The irony is that no matter how much we achieve externally, we can never fully experience peace or fulfillment unless we take the time to embark on the inner journey. This inward exploration is a lifelong process, but it is never too early to start. The importance of the inner journey lies in the way it allows us to truly know ourselves. We often live with a collection of societal narratives and beliefs about who we are, shaped by our families, friends, and culture. These narratives can limit us or trap us in roles that we think we must play. By engaging in the inner journey, we begin to peel away these layers, much like an onion, and uncover the truth of who we are beneath the surface. This process of self-exploration allows us to identify our true desires, our passions, our fears, and our strengths. Without knowing these parts of ourselves, it is impossible to live authentically or to make choices that align with our true purpose. One of the key aspects of the inner journey is the process of self-reflection. This is the act of pausing to look inward and ask questions about our beliefs, our actions, and our motivations. What do I truly want in life? What am I afraid of? What are my deepest values? These are the types of questions that help us examine our internal world. When we take the time to reflect, we begin to understand why we make the choices we do and why certain patterns keep repeating in our lives. This awareness is the first step toward growth. Without reflection, we are simply reacting to life, being driven by unconscious forces rather than consciously choosing our path. Self-awareness is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. It is the key to breaking free from the limiting beliefs and habits that no longer serve us. In our 30s, we may find that some of the things we once thought were important no longer resonate with us. We may feel a sense of dissatisfaction, even though we've achieved much in our external lives. This is often the point at which many people begin the inner journey. When the external world no longer provides the answers, we turn inward to seek clarity. It is in this inward turn that we start to redefine who we are and what truly matters to us. The inner journey asks us to be honest with ourselves, to look at the parts of us we have been avoiding, and to make peace with them. This honesty fosters a deeper connection to ourselves, allowing us to live with greater authenticity. The inner journey also invites us to embrace vulnerability. It takes courage to confront the parts of ourselves we may not want to face, our weaknesses, our insecurities, our past mistakes. Yet, it is only by embracing these aspects that we can begin to heal and grow. Often, we build walls around these vulnerable parts of ourselves in an attempt to protect them from judgment or criticism. But in doing so, we deny ourselves the opportunity to truly connect with others and to experience life fully. Vulnerability allows us to shed the masks we wear for the world and to show up as our true selves, unafraid of being seen. It is through this authenticity that we create deeper, more meaningful connections with others and with ourselves. The inner journey also requires us to develop a sense of self-compassion. It's easy to be hard on ourselves when we fail or fall short of our expectations. Society often teaches us that success is the ultimate goal and that anything less is unacceptable. But the inner journey teaches us that failure is not something to be feared, but an essential part of growth. By learning to treat ourselves with kindness, we begin to shift our mindset from one of judgment to one of acceptance. This shift is transformative, as it allows us to be gentler with ourselves during times of struggle and to view challenges as opportunities for growth rather than as personal failures. This compassion becomes the foundation for our continued self-discovery and the key to living a more fulfilled and balanced life. As we embark on this inner journey, we also come to understand the role of our emotions in guiding us toward our truth. Emotions are not to be ignored or suppressed. They are signals from within, pointing us toward the things that matter most to us. At 30, we may find ourselves overwhelmed by the demands of life, which can cause us to disconnect from our emotional selves. But it is through listening to our emotions, whether joy, sadness, anger, or fear, that we begin to understand our desires, our boundaries, and our needs. Emotions are an integral part of our inner world, and by learning to navigate them with awareness, we can gain valuable insights into what is most important to us. In the pursuit of the inner journey, we also come to realize that we are not static beings. We are constantly evolving, changing, and growing. Our 30s mark a time when we start to see that life is not about arriving at a final destination, but about the ongoing process of self-discovery. This understanding is liberating because it allows us to release the need for perfection. We no longer strive to meet a fixed set of expectations. Instead, we embrace the fact that we are always becoming, always shifting, and always learning. This openness to change is what enables us to continue growing on our inner journey throughout our lives. The inner journey is not an easy one, nor is it always a linear path. It is filled with moments of doubt, confusion, and even pain. But it is through this very process that we find the depth, richness, and authenticity that make life truly meaningful. By turning inward, we begin to understand that the true measure of our success is not how others see us, but how we see ourselves. And as we uncover this deeper understanding, we begin to live more intentionally, with greater purpose, and with a sense of peace that comes from knowing who we truly are. Letting go is often viewed as a difficult, painful, and even passive act. It is something that many of us resist, fearing what might happen if we release our grip on the things we've held dear, whether they be material possessions, relationships, expectations, or even our sense of self. The act of letting go can feel like surrender, and in a world that constantly demands control and mastery over one's environment, the idea of surrendering can be unsettling. However, what if we were to view letting go not as a loss, but as an essential part of growth, healing, and ultimately freedom? At the age of 30, many of us find ourselves holding on to certain beliefs, patterns, and attachments that no longer serve us. We might find ourselves clinging to old ideals, relationships that have run their course, or even aspects of our identity that we've outgrown. In our youth, we are often taught to be persistent, to push through obstacles, and to hold on tight in the face of adversity. While these qualities are valuable in many contexts, they can also lead us to become stuck in unhealthy cycles if we are unwilling to let go of what no longer serves us. Letting go is not about quitting or giving up. Rather, it is about making room for what truly matters. It is a conscious decision to release what is weighing us down, so that we can move forward with a sense of clarity, purpose, and lightness. This act of release may come in many forms. It could be the end of a relationship that no longer brings joy or fulfillment, the letting go of unrealistic expectations we've placed upon ourselves, or even the release of old habits that no longer align with our values. Each time we let go, we make space for something new to emerge, whether it is growth, healing, or the discovery of a more authentic version of ourselves. One of the most powerful aspects of letting go is that it allows us to break free from the grip of the past. In our 30s, many of us find ourselves reflecting on past mistakes, missed opportunities, and regrets. These thoughts can become heavy burdens that influence our present lives and decisions. We may continue to carry the weight of these past experiences, allowing them to shape our identity and limit our potential. But by choosing to let go of the past, we free ourselves from the belief that our past defines us. We can acknowledge our past experiences without being bound to them. This act of release opens up space for forgiveness, both for ourselves and others, and allows us to move forward without the constant shadow of past mistakes looming over us. Letting go also means releasing the need for control. In our 30s, we may have become accustomed to trying to control every aspect of our lives. We often believe that in order to achieve success or happiness, we must meticulously plan and execute every step, anticipating every possible outcome. This desire for control can create anxiety and stress, as life is unpredictable and often does not go according to plan. Letting go of the need for control does not mean becoming passive or indifferent. Instead, it means learning to trust the flow of life, to surrender to the present moment, and to accept that there are forces beyond our control. When we let go of the need to dictate every outcome, we can experience a deeper sense of peace and trust in the process of life. This sense of trust is particularly important when it comes to letting go of people or relationships that no longer serve us. At 30, many of us have relationships that have changed over time, whether with family, friends, or romantic partners. These relationships may have been a source of comfort and security at one point, but as we evolve, we may find that they no longer align with who we are becoming. Letting go of these relationships can be one of the most difficult forms of release, as we often fear the pain of separation or the loneliness that may follow. However, holding on to relationships out of obligation, fear, or nostalgia can prevent us from fully embracing new connections or personal growth. By letting go of relationships that are no longer healthy or fulfilling, we create space for new, more meaningful connections to take their place. Letting go in this sense is not about rejection, but about honoring ourselves and our needs. Letting go also plays a significant role in releasing expectations, especially the expectations we place on ourselves. By the age of 30, many of us have certain goals and milestones we believe we should have reached. We might have a clear picture in our minds of where we should be in terms of our career, personal life, or financial situation. These expectations can lead to feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, or frustration when things do not go according to plan. The pressure to live up to our own expectations or societal standards can create a sense of constant striving, leaving us feeling as though we are never enough. Letting go of these expectations is a powerful act of self-liberation. It allows us to redefine success on our own terms, free from the constraints of what others expect from us or what we believe we should have accomplished by a certain age. By releasing these rigid expectations, we can open ourselves up to new possibilities and opportunities that may have previously been hidden by our narrow view of success. When we let go of expectations, we also make room for a more flexible and open-minded approach to life. We begin to understand that life is not a linear path, and that there is no single right way to live. Letting go of the need for a fixed outcome allows us to embrace uncertainty and the unexpected with grace. We can begin to see setbacks and failures not as signs of defeat, but as opportunities for growth and transformation. This shift in perspective allows us to cultivate resilience and adaptability, qualities that are essential for navigating the complexities of life. The power of letting go is also reflected in the way it allows us to cultivate a sense of gratitude and acceptance. When we release our attachments, whether to things, people, or outcomes, we are able to appreciate what we have in the present moment. We no longer take our current circumstances for granted, but instead we begin to see the beauty in the here and now. This sense of presence is essential for cultivating joy and contentment, as it shifts our focus away from what we lack or what we wish we had, and directs it toward what we already possess. By letting go of the constant need for more, we find fulfillment in the simplicity and richness of the present moment. In our 30s, the act of letting go may feel like a subtle yet profound shift in how we relate to the world and ourselves. The process of releasing is not easy, but it is liberating. It is an invitation to shed the weight of what no longer serves us and to step into a more authentic, lighter existence. Letting go is not about relinquishing control or resigning ourselves to fate. Rather, it is about recognizing that there is power in release. When we let go, we create space for new experiences, deeper connections, and a more fulfilling life. In this act of surrender, we find freedom. At the heart of human experience lies the delicate interplay between light and shadow, between the aspects of ourselves that we readily accept and those we tend to hide or deny. It is easy to embrace the parts of ourselves that society deems desirable, our kindness, our achievements, our outward success. However, there exists within each of us a darker side, a part that holds our fears, our flaws, and the qualities we would rather ignore. This part is often referred to as the shadow, a concept made famous by Carl Jung. But what does it truly mean to accept the shadow, and why is this process so crucial for personal growth and authentic living? When we are in our 30s, many of us have already spent years curating our public image, polishing the parts of ourselves that seem acceptable or admirable to others. We want to be seen as competent, strong, loving, and successful. And yet, even as we strive to project these qualities, there are deeper, hidden parts of ourselves that remain tucked away. These parts are not necessarily bad or evil, but they are often the qualities we feel uncomfortable with or ashamed of. The shadow contains those aspects of our personality that we have repressed or rejected, typically because they are deemed unacceptable by societal standards or our own moral compass. It could be anger, jealousy, envy, greed, or even aspects of our sexuality. It could also encompass feelings of inadequacy, insecurity, or shame. These parts of ourselves are not inherently negative, but when left unexamined, they have the potential to control us in ways that undermine our well-being and prevent us from living fully. The problem with ignoring or suppressing the shadow is that it does not disappear, it simply festers beneath the surface. The more we try to repress certain aspects of ourselves, the more power they hold over our actions, thoughts, and emotions. The shadow manifests itself in subtle and sometimes destructive ways, in unanticipated bursts of anger, in irrational jealousy, in self-sabotaging behavior, or in the projection of our insecurities onto others. These hidden parts of ourselves often influence our relationships, our career choices, and our overall sense of self-worth without our even realizing it. It is only by confronting and accepting these parts that we can begin to regain control of our lives and our inner world. To accept the shadow is not to condone harmful behavior, but to acknowledge its existence and understand its role in our lives. The shadow is not something to be feared or rejected, but something to be integrated into our conscious awareness. By recognizing and accepting our shadow, we come to understand that it is an essential part of our human experience. Every person has a shadow, and it is through embracing this darker side that we become whole. This process of integration allows us to live more authentically, without being driven by unconscious forces or the need to hide parts of ourselves from the world. When we accept our shadow, we begin to see ourselves with greater clarity and compassion. At 30, many of us find ourselves at a crossroads in life, facing the realization that the ideals and goals we once held may no longer resonate with us. we may begin to question who we truly are and whether the life we've built aligns with our true self. This questioning often brings to the surface the parts of us that we have been avoiding, the aspects that we have kept hidden for fear of rejection or judgment. The shadow often emerges during times of transition or crisis, when we are forced to confront aspects of ourselves that we have long ignored. Rather than seeing this as a sign of failure or weakness, we can choose to view it as an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. One of the most powerful steps in accepting the shadow is to recognize that it is not a separate, foreign entity, but a natural part of ourselves. The qualities we reject in others are often a reflection of the qualities we reject within ourselves. When we judge others harshly or feel resentment toward them, we can ask ourselves, what does this person's behavior mirror in me? This reflective process can reveal the aspects of our shadow that we are not yet willing to acknowledge. It is often easier to see the flaws in others, but the truth is that we are all mirrors of one another. Our judgments of others can be a doorway into understanding our own unconscious beliefs and fears. Acceptance of the shadow requires an honest, often uncomfortable, exploration of our inner world. It asks us to look at our darker impulses and tendencies without judgment or shame. This process of self-examination can bring up feelings of guilt, anger, or regret, emotions that we often prefer to avoid. However, it is important to remember that these feelings are part of our journey towards self-acceptance. The goal is not to repress or deny these emotions, but to acknowledge their presence and understand their source. What are these emotions telling us about our unmet needs, our unresolved conflicts, or our unmet desires? By listening to these messages, we gain deeper insight into our own psyche and can begin the process of healing. When we accept the shadow, we also come to realize that it holds valuable gifts. Often, the qualities we reject in ourselves are the very qualities that can lead to personal strength and growth. For example, our anger, when harnessed constructively, can become a source of empowerment and motivation to stand up for ourselves and others. Our jealousy can reveal unmet needs or desires that need attention. Even our fears can serve as a catalyst for courage and change. The shadow, when integrated, provides us with a deeper understanding of our true desires, strengths, and weaknesses. It enables us to live more fully without being dominated by unconscious impulses or repressed emotions. The process of accepting the shadow also involves embracing our humanity, the recognition that we are all flawed, imperfect beings, and that this imperfection is what makes us real. Perfection is an illusion, and the more we strive for it, the more we distance ourselves from our true selves. The acceptance of our shadow allows us to release the pressure of trying to be flawless and to instead embrace the beauty in our imperfections. In doing so, we become more compassionate not only toward ourselves but also toward others, recognizing that everyone carries their own shadow and struggles. In our 30s, the acceptance of the shadow is an invitation to live with greater authenticity and self-awareness. We no longer need to hide the parts of ourselves that we have been taught to repress. By accepting the shadow, we begin to experience a deeper sense of freedom and wholeness, as we no longer live in fear of being discovered or exposed. We stop judging ourselves for our flaws and, in turn, become more understanding and accepting of the flaws in others. It is through this acceptance that we can heal, grow, and evolve into a more integrated version of ourselves. Ultimately, the shadow is not a burden to bear, but a powerful source of transformation. By accepting and integrating the shadow, we become more in tune with our true selves, more at peace with our imperfections, and more capable of living authentically. It is through this process of self-acceptance that we unlock the potential for deeper connection, greater fulfillment, and a more meaningful life. There is a common misconception in our society that perfection is something to be attained, a state to strive for in order to be worthy, loved, and successful. We are often taught that to be successful, we must meet a certain standard, and anything less is to be seen as a failure. We see this idea mirrored in the media, in the polished images of seemingly flawless celebrities, successful entrepreneurs, and perfect families. As a result, many of us feel a constant pressure to appear flawless in our lives, in our relationships, and in our work. But what if we could step back and recognize the profound beauty in imperfection? What if we could learn to embrace our flaws, our mistakes, and our vulnerabilities as essential parts of our human experience? At the age of 30, many of us are beginning to reevaluate the path we have taken, the choices we have made, and the person we have become. By now, we have likely encountered some form of failure, disappointment, or heartbreak. We have experienced the sting of imperfection, whether in ourselves or in the people around us, and yet it is in these very moments of imperfection that we often find our greatest opportunities for growth. The beauty of imperfection lies not in avoiding mistakes or striving for flawlessness, but in recognizing that it is through our imperfections that we become more human, more connected, and more authentic. Imperfection is a reflection of our humanity. We are not perfect beings, nor are we meant to be. Perfection implies a static, unchanging state, a version of ourselves that can never grow, learn, or evolve. But life is inherently messy and dynamic, filled with ups and downs, joys and sorrows, triumphs and failures. Our imperfections are a testament to this reality, a reminder that we are constantly changing, learning, and evolving. It is only by embracing our flaws that we can fully experience the richness of life, rather than trying to avoid or suppress them. Perfection can often feel like a trap, a pursuit that keeps us focused on an ideal that is ultimately unattainable. It robs us of the freedom to be who we truly are, as we are constantly measuring ourselves against a standard that does not allow for growth or mistakes. Imperfection, on the other hand, allows us the freedom to be ourselves, to accept our flaws, and to move forward with a sense of grace and authenticity. In our 30s, we often find ourselves confronted with the reality that life does not follow a neat, predictable path. We may have expected to have everything figured out by now, but instead we find ourselves still searching, still questioning, still evolving. We might look around and see that others have achieved the things we thought we would have by this age: career success, financial stability, the perfect relationship. It is easy to feel as though we are falling behind, or that we are not living up to our potential. But the beauty of imperfection is that it teaches us to release these rigid expectations and to accept that everyone's journey is unique. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to life, and our imperfections are not signs of failure, but rather indicators that we are actively living, learning, and growing. When we learn to embrace imperfection, we begin to see the world through a more compassionate lens. We understand that others, too, are struggling with their own flaws and challenges. We stop expecting perfection from the people in our lives, and in doing so, we create space for authentic connection. It is often our imperfections that allow us to relate to others on a deeper level. When we share our struggles, our vulnerabilities, and our mistakes, we invite others to do the same, creating a sense of shared humanity. This shared experience is what forms the foundation of meaningful relationships, as it is in our imperfection that we find common ground and mutual understanding. In a world that often celebrates the polished and the perfect, there is a unique beauty in showing up as our authentic selves, flaws and all. When we let go of the need to hide our imperfections, we open ourselves up to deeper connections with others, as we can truly see and appreciate one another for who we are, rather than who we think we should be. The pursuit of perfection also comes with its own set of pressures and stresses. We are often so focused on getting things right that we forget to enjoy the process of living. Imperfection, on the other hand, invites us to let go of the constant need for control and to embrace life as it is. It encourages us to be present in the moment, to appreciate the beauty in the small, everyday moments, rather than waiting for some idealized future where everything is perfect. When we release the need for perfection, we allow ourselves to experience life in its fullness with all its messiness, uncertainty, and unpredictability. This mindset shift brings with it a sense of peace as we stop fighting against the natural flow of life and instead learn to go with it. Imperfection teaches us to accept what is, rather than constantly striving for something that may never come. One of the most profound gifts of embracing imperfection is that it allows us to develop resilience. When we stop fearing failure or mistakes, we open ourselves up to taking risks and trying new things. Imperfection teaches us that mistakes are not something to be avoided, but opportunities to learn and grow. Every mistake, every failure is a stepping stone on the path to becoming a wiser, more capable person. It is through our struggles that we build strength and character. The more we embrace imperfection, the less we fear the unknown and the more we welcome new challenges with an open heart. We learn to pick ourselves up after we fall, to embrace our flaws, and to move forward with greater confidence and understanding. At the age of 30, many of us have accumulated a lifetime of experiences, some joyful, some painful, but all valuable. Our imperfections are a testament to the wisdom and growth we have gained along the way. They remind us that we are not static beings, but dynamic, evolving individuals who are constantly learning and growing. Imperfection allows us to be kinder to ourselves, to forgive ourselves for the mistakes we have made, and to accept that we are always a work in progress. It is in our imperfections that we find the space for transformation, as we acknowledge our flaws and use them as the fuel for self-improvement. Rather than hiding our imperfections or trying to change them, we can learn to embrace them as part of our story. Ultimately, the beauty of imperfection is that it is what makes us unique. It is in our quirks, our flaws, and our mistakes that we find the essence of who we truly are. Perfection, with its rigid standards and unattainable ideals, can only stifle our creativity, our joy, and our potential. Imperfection, on the other hand, frees us to be authentic, to embrace our humanity, and to live with greater peace and acceptance. By letting go of the need to be perfect, we open ourselves to a life that is rich, full, and meaningful. The beauty of imperfection is that it allows us to live fully, to connect deeply, and to experience the world in all its messy, wonderful, unpredictable glory. In a world that often emphasizes individual achievement and personal success, the importance of building meaningful connections can sometimes be overlooked. As we move through life, we often prioritize career advancement, financial security, and personal goals, believing that these will bring us fulfillment. However, as we reach our 30s, many begin to recognize that true happiness and a sense of purpose often come not from external accomplishments, but from the relationships we form with others. Meaningful connections, whether with family, friends, romantic partners, or even acquaintances, provide the emotional support, understanding, and sense of belonging that are essential for our well-being. These relationships become the bedrock upon which we build a life that is rich in love, compassion, and mutual growth. Building meaningful connections requires a shift away from superficial interactions toward deeper, more authentic relationships. In our youth, many of us may have been focused on quantity, gathering as many friends or contacts as possible. The digital age has amplified this tendency, as social media platforms have made it easier than ever to accumulate friends and followers. However, the number of people